Pairs perfectly. It's soft, it's a soft cider, and it's coming out of freaking Texas. This is where we are going into like 2023. We're getting ciders called Heirloom from Texas.
Right.
Hello, my name is Ria Windcaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, cider enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world. Bringing us into this here episode, you were hearing from both the Nose and myself as we were discussing a cider from Texas Keeper, which is an Austin, Texas cidery. And the cider itself is called Heirloom. And we will be going back to that conversation shortly because this episode 350 is all about reviewing the past year and looking forward to season 8. Bravo! And if you're new to Cider Chat and you're a first-time listener, well, I'd like to welcome you. This is a weekly podcast with over 350 episodes, all available for free to download and listen. So it's a huge archive discussing a wide range of topics surrounding cider making techniques, orchard care, and the local customs and traditions in nearly every country on this planet, which just gives me absolute pause and admiration for the reach that palms, this is a certain family of fruit, with the king of all palms being the apple, the reach that it has on our daily lives, certainly for that culinary aspect of eating, but then you bring it into this other level of fermentation where now you get to encapsulate that particular year that tree provided fruit that a maker then fermented into a delectable drink that then showcases a particular season. So, for instance, I've been opening some bottles from 2017, some wild ferments at home that, in truth, are only now ready to be drunk. So we're looking at, it's 2023. We're looking at 6 years later. And I want to say, those wild ferments are now really popping in the bottle. I mean, they're a patinat to begin with, so there's a little bit of bubbly, and I'm able to taste that orchard from 2017. I just love that, and I love talking to everyone out there in what I lovingly call Ciderville, all these special spots around the world. I have my own special spot of Ciderville, and you do too. And this is the joy of what Cider Chat brings for me, and I hope you as a listener. So welcome aboard the Cider Train out and about to Ciderville, and welcome back if you are a regular listener to this chat. This is a special edition of Cider Chat because it's the end of Season 7, and we're going to be reviewing this with the Nose, who was really originally on the first ever release of Cider Chat in episode 00, which I haven't changed because some podcasters go back and they kind of change the setup of the episodes a bit. And for me, it's my own time capsule of how I've matured, if you will, through the many years that I've been doing this podcast every single week for the past 7 years. And I have learned a lot. And I'm going to be talking a little wee bit about that. Some of the lessons have been fantastic, and some have been a little bittersweet. So goes cider and Ciderville. So we're going to be going back to this main conversation shortly with the Nose, still drinking that Texas Keeper. We're going to be drinking a couple other wonderful ferments and spirits during this conversation. But first, I'd like to celebrate one of our sponsors who has been a regular sponsor for a number of years, and that is none other than the New York International Cider Competition that's going to be taking place on February 19th of this year, 2023. So this is the time now, commercial makers, to be sending in your entries. You can find the details and the application forms at NYI Cider cidercompetition.com. There'll be a link in the show notes to that. And in addition, there is a promo code for you, and that is chat23. So that certainly allows sponsors to see, hey, is this working for Cider Chat in our relationship? So I do hope that you use it, because that's one part of the pie. But the other big piece is that you get $10 off your submission. So it's a win-win in both directions. Again, that's at nycidercompetition.com. And now I'd like to bring on Adam Levy, who is the founder of the New York International Cider Competition, to tell us a little bit why he supports Cider Chat.
Hey there, it's Adam Levy, the alcohol professor. This year, we're very excited as we work with Cider Chat. We've been working with you guys for several years. We're offering all the producers who listen in a special $10 discount, Chat23. Again, Chat23, CHAT 23. It gives you a $10 discount to the New York International Cider Competition, because Ria, she does a great job and we want to support her. So support her, support us, and we're all here to drink good cider. Have a great day.
Thanks, Adam. You have a great day too. And you know what I love about Adam is that he is just very, very direct. He likes what Cider Chat does. He calls me up and says, hey, Ria, let's do this. Let's get the New York International Cider Competition out there again on the podcast and bring folks on board, because it's a very particular competition in that the judges are not your classic cider judges. They are trade buyers who are judging on value and price point. Will their customers buy it at that price point and value, which is a whole lot of info there. And sometimes it's going to be magnificent info, and sometimes it might be like, oh crap, I'm like really off kilter here and not meeting that demand. And so in some ways, it's like, shoot, a great way to invest in marketing for your business and having someone else give you that feedback. So again, that's at the New York International Cider Competition, nycidercompetition.com. Use promo code CHAT23. Now let's roll back to that conversation with the Nose as we continue drinking cider and chit-chatting about Season 7. So we have a bottle of Heirloom small batch cider from Texas Keeper. How cool is that? A Texas cidery. Heirloom is blended from classic Americana heirloom and cider apple varieties like Roxbury Russet. So it's a Roxbury Russet in here, which is the oldest apple grown in the U.S., dating from 1649. Also, Northern Spy, dated 1790. Baldwin from the 1740s. Heirloom was aged on medium toast French oak, contributing structure and a hint of vanilla to this exceptional cider. And it is coming in at 7.5% alcohol by volume. I think it's a lovely cider for this meal, which we are having because it's Texas. We're having steak tips with some mushroom and onions on top, a nice salad, and a little baked potato and some coleslaw. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Pairs perfectly. I mean, really kind of cuts through. It has just the right amount of, it's soft. It's a soft cider. And it's coming out of freaking Texas. This is where we are going into like 2023. We're getting ciders called Heirloom from Texas.
We are blessed with a lot of cider, but there's very few ciders that I would be happy to drink the whole entire bottle. And this is one of those ciders. I really feel like Texas won me over, and I never thought that would happen. Texas kept my heart, man, and my palate.
Wow. That's a huge thing coming from you, because you are the Nose.
And I was born and bred in New England. I am all about the New England apple, and
well, you have a lot of East Coast apples here. Roxbury Russet is like Massachusetts. Baldwin is New England.
Right. I feel like I'm tasting home in this glass. And that really, I can't even tell you that brings me in so many different directions, but it really just centers me. So thank you, Texas Keeper, for really
Well, it's complementing the food. I think that's part of it too. But you could also just drink it straight up.
It's so drinkable. That's the thing. It's like there's plenty of times that we have cider that is always better when paired with food. This is a cider I could drink without food and thoroughly enjoy
I like that.
And not be missing any element.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. That was a delicious meal. It is time to move on and chit-chat a little bit about this 350th episode, which is now the very end of season 7, which is essentially 7 years. So let's just kind of crack this little bottle open here.
Moving right along. Ralph the dog sang it. It was one of my favorites.
Am I bringing that into your head right now?
Well, because we're moving right along from dinner
all right,
into the next phase.
Moving right along.
Hi, this is Patrick Giard, of Domaine de Manoir de Montreuil, located in Normandy, Montreuil-en-Auge. And you are listening to Cider Chat.
You're going to toast with this little Pommeau from Normandy. It's from Patrice Giard, and he is a 13th generation farmer in Normandy on the family farm. I knew that this year I had made it my intention to really spend the time with him, because when we visited him in 2018, we had to move too quickly, and I just didn't think that was a good idea. So instead, I talking to Pamela, I said, I want to spend some time there. And he knew how to play it. He said, instead of meeting him down at the house this time, where the bus is right there, we met up at the tasting room, which is up where all the cows are, because they have a huge dairy farm, like many Norman farmers and cider makers. And we get off at the tasting room, and his daughter's there, who is now like taking on the farm. Father's going to retire. They meet us there, and we walk down the hill. He walks us out across the street, opens up the gate, and we start walking down the hill through the apple orchard. And they had just moved the cows off because they're going to start harvesting all the apples. And we went down there and walked down where the distillery is, where these giant barrel rooms are. Amazing freaking barrels from like 1765. Just incredible experience.
What a way to slow it down and be present.
Slow us down. Then we walked around this house that has like a door from 1100 on it. Just opened up his whole backyard to us. It was such an authentic experience, and everybody on the trip was just so connected there. So we went up, then we had to walk up the hill, right? So we spent some time there. Then we went over and met the cows. Then we go into the tasting room, and he brings out, we're tasting stuff, and then he goes, hey, this is Pommeau, Ria? 20 years old, says 20 ans, says 20 years, Pommeau de Normandy. 17% alcohol by volume. I taste it, I'm like, oh my God, this is like a Solero type of like Pommeau, where he actually kind of added stuff onto it. So it doesn't have the appellation of the AOC appellation, because it has to be very specific, but it can still be Pommeau de Normandy. And the color of it, cherry, like a red cherry. If you're going to squeeze red cherry juice, but it's not, it's like a kind of a burgundy kind of hue to it. It's not your typical Pommeau, which is very much more like an amber color.
Right.
Right?
And I was noticing that.
Yeah.
Tint of red.
Really different color. I mean, thinking 20 years old, but he's also like mixed aged onto it. And I tasted it, and I was like, holy mozzoli. So I must bring some of this home. And I did, and that is what we're tasting here. So I'm very curious, Nose, what you think about this.
I'm a lucky duck. That's what I think so far.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is like cherry on the palate too. Super
Definite
rich
cherry.
depth to this. You're getting some so Pommeau is fresh pressed apple juice and brandy. Incredible, isn't it? Jeez, I'm crow. I want to tell you though, what he was pouring me, tasting it there and tasting it now was totally different.
That's been my experience with everything from Normandy.
Dang, I almost think okay, now what's going on here, folks?
Or is it bottle shock?
I think it's drinking it in the presence of the land that it was from.
Like doing ayahuasca in the jungle as compared to in Boston, outside of Boston.
Yeah, the urban setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've yet ayahuasca, but anywho,
I'm saying nothing. I just used, first reference that came to mind.
I think I need another sip of this Pommeau. Ooh.
I'm done with my glass. What does that say about me?
It says maybe I didn't pour you enough.
I really like the structure and the integrity of it. It's beautiful, and it has a heavy richness, like the brain.
You don't get that caramel that you normally from something that's aged. This is like a whole other level.
Yeah,
it's almost like, wow, like apple become cherry. I'd be like, was that in the cherry cask? But I know it wasn't. It's just that 13 generations of blending. Mm-hmm. And he knows every single apple out there in that orchard. This guy knows it. Mm-hmm. And his daughter, who is just so delightful, forces to be reckoned with. We were just enchanted. That was a highlight. And now we have a taste of that terroir right there. Absolutely beautiful. So I haven't at this point really introduced the Nose. The Nose was on episode 00, which I haven't listened to in 7 years. I think we had all these grand ideas that, we might be still talking in 7 years. And here we are still talking in 7 years, moving into season 8.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah. And how has Nose's nose developed in that time of drinking cider on your little journey there?
My glass overfloweth with the opportunity that's been presented to me to try so many different ciders and regions.
Well, there's just so much more that's available. I mean, that's really what we get to see over 7 years is the bounty that now comes. I mean, back in season 1, there was just so little. You go to the package store, right? The cider store, pick it up, and there weren't cider stores to pick it up. But you go to like a liquor store, and there would be hardly any choices at all. And now, you could be discerning on what you want to try. You could say, actually, I want to try something new this week.
My palate has certainly changed. When you started this journey 7 years ago, I was still enjoying homemade fruit ciders. Mm-hmm. Blueberry, strawberry. Raspberry. And there were people around us that were actually making some decent cider.
Yeah.
Using some of those fruit infusions in them. And, I had to try a peach. I had to try making a peach. It was horrific. It was watery and thin, and I wound up using concentrate and saved it. But it was
Yikes.
It was something that I had to experience, I think, to have a deeper understanding and appreciation for heirloom apples and bitter sharps and what some of those older heritage non-culinary apples are doing for cider and certainly for flavor. Yeah. And the second thing was that Normandy ruined me. Let me just clarify. It's really more about the ciders that I drank in Normandy and the experience that I had there, and how that introduced me to a whole new terroir and a variety of apples that I had never been exposed to before.
I could totally relate to that. That makes absolute sense. Yeah.
And also, learning more about keeving. I really had very little experience with that before. And I really enjoyed it.
Now, just to stop you there, just like keeving, for folks who don't know, is a different technique within cider making where you stop fermentation early, or it's stopped because, it's a longer-winded thing. I'm not going to get into it right now, but keeving is a particular style, and so you come across with like a sweeter style, and you can get a little bit of that farmhouse too, that, we don't see that happening much in the U.S., although a lot of people that went on the most recent tour, they really got into the keeved cider, and I'm hearing folks from that tour are already making some keeved cider, so I'm really excited about that. So it really informed you. You didn't think you were going to like the farmhouse style. Is that what I'm hearing?
I am almost positive I remembered the very first time that I tried farmhouse style cider, and I did not care for it. I felt like,
too piggy.
It was, I did not want to be licking that glass at all. I just, but now I really, that's my go-to. If I have a choice of 5 ciders, that'll be the one that's oftentimes my top pick.
Yeah. It's exciting to have that, to receive a glass. And then I find with that style, you really need to let it sit. Did you want to say more about that?
Just to wrap up, that I feel like, one of the things that shifted for me is that I now approach each cider with greater insight of the possibilities that it can hold, that glass can hold, and have an even broader respect for the varying traditions used by cider makers throughout the world.
Yeah, well said. Because each region has its own specific culture, which is so cool about it all, right? Yeah. And that terroir is really unique. It's unique from one part of Michigan to the other side of Michigan.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. And we do have an abundance of cider. Yeah, wonderful.
Aren't we lucky?
I'm just going to cut into this conversation for a minute and let you know what's going on here. During the end of the season episode, I always like to roll out all the intros from that past season. So you just heard from Patrice Giard doing the intro, and next up you're going to hear from folks in Kazakhstan, Slovenia, and Washington State, and they'll be cutting in throughout our conversation here with the Nose. It just thrills me beyond words to be able to hear all these voices coming back from, Kazakhstan, Slovenia to Washington State. We're going around the world there, and that's really what Cider Chat's all about. So let's cut to some intros now from this past season 7 and continue on with this conversation with the Nose.
Hi, this is Ayjan Thomas.
And this is Alex Thomas. We're Apple City Cider, based in the city of Almaty, in the country of Kazakhstan. And you are listening to Cider Chat.
Hi, this is Jan Schrammel of Schrammel, located in Vipava Valley, Slovenia, and you're listening to the Cider Chat.
Hey, how's it going out there? Cider Chat. This is your Rav, Dave Clower. I just go by Dave. Alma Cider. Here in Western Washington, Pacific Northwest. We're along the foothills, the North Cascades in the beautiful Skagit Valley. And thanks for joining us. You're listening to us on Cider Chat.
If you go to ciderchat.com, there's a page for each season. So I have season 7 open right now, and it kicked off with the water wheel and Phil Watson, who is local. I didn't even know there was a freaking water wheel around here. Oh my God.
Hi, this is Phil Watson of the Snake Cider Company, and we're located in Northfield, Massachusetts, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
And then going to all these other episodes, like Cider Mills of Washtenaw County out in Michigan. Just incredible historical pieces.
Hi, this is Patrick McCauley, based in beautiful Washtenaw County, Michigan, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
And then the DYI on Wassail with Al Sachs, who's, I think right now down in North Carolina. Mm. And I think he might be doing a Wassail with the folks at Botanist and Barrel. Mm. Yeah, and then come up here and do a Wassail. He knows how to do it well. Our own little green man.
That was Wassail Tips, right?
Yeah, Wassail Tips, yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for having me, Ria. I love wassails. I think they're a wonderful event to have in the coldest part of the year.
The continuation with Sorbus Domestica. And that was with Ben out in the Pacific Northwest, who has just been a huge supporter of Sorbus Domestica, sending seeds out to anyone who wants to grow this magnificent tree. Just an incredible episode called Falling for the Chocolate Pear.
Hi, this is Ben Kunish in Chehalis, Washington. You can follow me on Instagram at Strom_Oskarushi, and you're listening to Cider Chat.
And then we did some, cider maker tips, and we talked to Arjun at Elegas Cidery in the Netherlands. We did 2 parts with Arjun, just what they're doing there in the Netherlands right now. You could really see the growth of cider, kicking up.
Hi, this is Arjun Nielsen of Elegas Cidery, based in Hilversum, the Netherlands, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
Then a whole bunch of episodes from CiderCon, just, having the honor and privilege to talk with Diane Flint of Foggy Ridge. She stopped making cider and she is now full-time orchardist. And
hi there, this is Diane Flint of Foggy Ridge Cider, located in the Virginia Blue Ridge Mountains in Doug Spur, Virginia, and you're listening to Cider Chat.
Whew, just goes on,
Well, and that was your introduction to Richmond as well.
My first time in Richmond, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That was powerful.
I really loved Richmond, doing that cider tour in the Jackson Ward and learning about the color line that went down the center of Richmond and how they had named the streets. Jackson Ward is where the Black community was, and they named the streets after basically the enslavers. Just keep people down, and how they're leaving the names up there and they're putting the new names up as like brown signs in Jackson Ward and renaming these areas. This is where Black Wall Street was, going to speak. It just blew my freaking mind. That's why I'm really excited to be going on the tour in Chicago to Bronzeville. And that's going to just be so cool to learn the history of these cities. This is our culture of America. And, it brings us on another topic here of diversity in cider. One person who immediately comes to my mind is a Black woman entrepreneur based in Ohio by the name of Hannah Ferguson. And what's super cool about this is that she's bringing cider to an area where the dominant culture is African American. And this is a community of people that have a long history of cider making in the U.S., but haven't been privy to it. And now she is making it accessible. She's getting people into it, stoked, and bringing that culture where it had never been before.
Hi, this is Hannah Ferguson of Dope Cider House and Winery, located in Youngstown, Ohio, and you're listening to Cider Chat.
Anytime I'm feeling blue or sad, I just think about Hannah and Dope and, what she's doing there in Youngstown, Ohio, bringing it to folks who wouldn't necessarily be thinking about cider. And now she's seeing cider trees or apple trees everywhere in Youngstown, Ohio. So freaking cool. I love the story of saving the bears.
Hi, this is Ian McGregor of Farmstead Cider, located in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and you are listening to Cider Chat.
They saved the bears from going into Jackson Hole by collecting all the crabapple trees off the yards. That's just incredible.
Brilliant.
People we lost this year, Michael Phillips. Big loss for the cider community, and a beautiful tribute by
Alan Serpernot from Apple Valley in Ashfield, Massachusetts.
There's another person that we lost, Alex Peckham of Peckham's Cider in New Zealand.
I think, why didn't I just stay enjoying it as a hobby?
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Huge losses.
Yeah, huge losses. It's just part of the life, My mom passed away this year, and that was a huge loss. And talk about the whirlwind of 2022. It's really how I think about this past season.
In our little pocket of the world, so many other people have lost multiple people in their families and their friend circle through COVID and everything else in these past 3 years. It's been an intense time.
And I think that's like what I'm most thankful for, is just to be still standing, because, when COVID hit and having the responsibility of doing the podcast in 2020, I was just like, what the hell am I going to do?
That would have been a good theme song. I'm still standing. Da, 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 da.
Let's try something else here to drink here. So
I need that. I need something now.
Yeah, this is a little bit off. I just wanted to do it because it's from Flag Hill Flag Hill Distillery and Winery.
I think you have to finish that. You kind of left us hanging.
Oh,
You
what
said-
was it? What did I say?
You just
I
said
forgot
it's
already.
kind of off, and that's not a good lead-in to the cider.
What?
You were pouring the cider and saying, this is kind of off. And I know I know you're not talking about the cider.
No, I'm not talking about the cider.
But that's the way it sounded for a moment. So
Okay.
I'm just
Can't
letting you know
what I was talking about there.
I think you were probably saying this is off palette or off topic from where we've been, because I'm seeing that this is a sugar maple liqueur.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Right. Thank you. Yes. We're not drinking a cider here. A sugar maple liqueur. Thank you, Nose. From Flag Hill Winery and Distillery, or Distillery and Winery up in New Hampshire. And I just want to kind of change up the palate. Sometimes, you change to a totally different drink to be able to clear your palate for the next thing to drink. Like sometimes I'll grab a beer in the middle of like when I'm at a cider fest or something, because I need to like get some of those bitters to change it. Now, I don't know what this is going to do because we just had a Pommeau, so it might not do it at all. But I just found this a very interesting drink from a maker of delicious apple brandy, the Josiah Bartlett apple brandy made at Flag Hill. So cheers to those folks.
Wow.
Kind of clears the sinuses a little bit.
It does.
there.
It goes right through my nose.
But not in a hot way.
In a very beautiful way.
Yeah. The maple is not overbearing. It's very subtle. They do a lot of nice balance here. And this winery and distillery is using apples a lot in their distillation, which is kind of going 24 hours around the clock. So they have it for the maple sugar liqueur. They have it for the Carner Blue gin. Carner Blue is named after the New Hampshire state butterfly. And then the General John Stark vodka, all based with apples, pulled in local apples from New Hampshire, which you gotta love.
I want to have this with Sunday waffles.
From New Hampshire to Washington State, talking about quince with the Queen of Quince on episode 327.
Hi, this is Edith Walden of Willow Rose Bay Incorporated, based on Guaymas Island in Washington State. And you are listening to Cider Chat.
Went to your first apple camp.
The last episode 349, we heard from Eliza Greenman. She did the keynote at Maine Apple Camp, which is just like, it was a phenomenal talk. People are buzzing about it. That's up now at ciderchat.com. But starting next week, we'll be doing a series from Maine Apple Camp. Talks from there. Just fantastic time.
Excellent.
Yeah. And of course, one mega special episode was speaking to someone that I was hoping to pin down at some point to talk. And really, I don't think she was ready to be recorded and to get into things until this past year. And that's Judith Maloney. West County Cider was the first commercial cidery back in 1984. So we talk about those beginnings and her take on cider. It was just an amazing thing. A lot of people have told me that it brought tears to their eyes listening to it. So do check out that episode. That's episode 329 with Judith Maloney.
Hi, this is Judith Maloney from West County Cider. I and my husband started West County Cider in 1984. And you are listening to Cider Chat.
What Cider Chat is, it means a lot to people. It really connects networking. For instance, like Jake Mann at 5 Mile Farm, multi-generational orchard out in the Santa Cruz County, out in Corvallis, right north of Watsonville, growing apples, saying to me at one point, Ria, if there's anybody that if you hear somebody looking for apples or juice, let me know. Because I want to find a bigger market, because they're kind of beholden to Martinelli's. Martinelli's is keeping a lot of those apple producers there. And that's good on one end, but, limiting on the other. Mm-hmm. And so, wouldn't you know it, Benny Boy Brewing down in LA contacted me and said, hey, do you know any juice? You know any sources of apples? Matter of fact, I do. And connected them with 5 Mile Orchard, and now they're being written about, this whole connection, and it's saving an orchard. And Jake wrote to me recently saying how proud his mother was, to know this and feel this. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that just brings freaking tears to my eyes. Mm-hmm. That's like Boom, shaka boom.
That's bringing people together.
Totally.
Hi, this is Chef Paul Carenti, author of The Art of Cider Making and the cider maker at New England Apple Products. We make cider for Carlson Orchards based in Harvard, Massachusetts. And you are listening to my friend Ria at Cider Chat.
I got a little email from a patron recently by the name of Nick and asked him the kind of classic songs that we ask everybody here. He wrote this little piece here that I think is what it's also about here for folks, to be connecting. He wrote, maybe something I say will influence other listeners to become a patron. Who knows? I definitely appreciate the podcast and would like to help it continue to flourish. I found out about Cider Chat after I made my first batch of cider in 2018. Earlier that year, my wife and I had found our current home, and one of the selling points for me was that it came with several fruit trees, and 2 of them were apples. I thought making cider could be a fun family tradition, especially as we were expecting our first son at the time. In an effort to make better cider, I started buying cider-making books and seeking out resources online. One day, on a whim, I wondered if there were any cider podcasts out there, which led me to Cider Chat. I was hooked, and I've been a regular listener ever since. The more I learn about cider, the more I'm amazed about the genetic diversity of apples and all the weird flavors they're capable of. I wanted to hold these weird apples and cut them open and taste them and make cider with them. But I live in New Mexico, and like many areas of the U.S., it's not easy to get your hands on something like Hughes Crab or Kingston Black or any wild apples or Perry pears. So I decided I'd just grow them myself. A few years later, after a lot of apple research and a little practice grafting, I had around 30 trees, each a different variety, growing in my backyard.
Amazing.
I know. And expect to add 30 more. Go, Nick. I've even got a few Sorbus domestica seedlings going after learning about them on the show. Oh.
Yay, Nick.
Yay. Since the majority of my trees are so young, it'll be a few more years before they fruit. But I'm excited to see how they do in my climate and maybe have some cider to share with family and friends. Using this experience, eventually, probably many years down the road, I'd like to plant a medium-ish sized orchard to produce quality fruit for cider. In the meantime, I'm keeping my day job, enjoying watching my 2 sons grow and learning more about soil health and biological orchard practices.
Right on.
Right on. So Nick just became a patron at the Cider Chat Patreon page. And,
Well, thank you, Nick, and congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment, what you've done.
I kind of think like, what is the theme for 2022 or 2023? And I don't know if it's ever changed. Sometimes you think, okay, well, this year it's all about wild ferment, or, I can say 2023 is going to be even like further about cold ferment. But really, what people really want and they're really trying to do in cider is they just want to connect with people, and that we're all doing something positive and feeling good about our earth and what we drink, and that we are in the know. Whether we're like sitting across from each other at the table like you and I are right now, we're in the know. We know what's going on. And I think that's my continued theme.
Well, to bring that full circle at the beginning of this conversation, I think you said something about that there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
That none of us are masters.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've been, even cideries that are multi-generation, each generation brings something into that mix.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's possibility that a previous generation didn't consider or didn't have access to.
Right. I just want to thank everybody out there for being part of this experience, for supporting Cider Chat. If you're commercial cidery and you could help support the podcast at the commercial level, which is basically 2 bottles of cider per month, you will be in the company of the following makers: Ross on Wye Cider and Perry Company in the UK, Duck Chicken Cider in London, Space Time Mead and Cider Works in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, Insider Japan, Japan's first and only bilingual magazine dedicated to all things cider, Esoterra Cider in Dolores, Colorado, Taddy Bogle Cider Works in Acme, Pennsylvania, the American Cider Association, which is everywhere in the US of A, a great organization to be part of, Olympic Bluff Cidery in Washington State, and Bent Ladder Cidery in Ohio.
Hi, this is Ian. I'm from Calico Cidery in Julian, California, and you're listening to Cider Chat.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Before we move on, do you have any summation or overall view, or can you give us a sneak peek as to where Cider Chat might be going next? Or
Well, I think that best starts with another glass of cider. Just cracked open the giggle juice here. Look at this wonderful can. It has a duck and a chicken laughing. This is from the UK.
I love it.
James and Colleen visited and brought this amazing dry cider in a can. The only dry cider from the UK in a can. I know they'll get a giggle juice out of that. 8.4% alcohol by volume. Wonderful, delightful cider. Let's try this before we go on, because I need to that's a heavy question. You know, what can I say? Nose, that's a heavy question. Let that fizzle come down a little bit. All right. Well,
I'm always excited to drink more giggle juice.
Yeah.
Thanks, James and Colleen.
Oh. So delightful. Wow, you could just so sessionable at 8.4%. And have a little bit of cracker here for like a dessert with a little bit of soft triple cream cheese from France. So if you want to have a little nibble on that with your giggle juice. 2022 was about connectivity, bringing everybody together. And then there's always a look for the podcaster looking into the world and trying to be, I guess you would say, neutral in it, so I could be really clear. There were some tough moments in the past year. It was about, of course, dealing with the pandemic and can I run a tour? Can I get a tour where everybody doesn't get sick? We went did the French cider tour. Not one soul got sick. We just were having a blast day and night. So there was some ease there.
I think it's so cool that a little family got created out of that experience.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
sweet to see that still happening.
And then doing Cider Days 2.0 was just a magnificent orchestration. It just went off without a hitch. And all the makers, all the sponsors, the support that I received from all those involved was outstanding. I do want to say there's a little bit of disconnect within Cider Days, and that was difficult for me. And it saddens me immensely. And anyone that knows me knows that I have been part of that since the beginning. I've been a huge bullhorn for that event, for this region. And in all honesty, it was weird. Some weird circumstances that I haven't fully recovered from, which really made me sad. I got a little bit of cyberbullying. I don't want to leave on a bum note, but that's a little bit the way I was kind of ending 2022. And it flipped me out. It's like, what the hell? What's going on here? Look, Ciderville, you know this. Not everybody is a happy jumping jelly bean out there. And when you have forces that are out there who are negative and not believing in you, that could be a tough situation to handle. And I had to handle that a bit this past year. So maybe I'll save that for a book. Moving forward, things are going to change up because of that. And it's sad. I feel like I'm walking away from Cider Days as I know it. What you're looking at me like, what do I mean there? Is that what you're looking at me?
Yeah, it sounds like you're doubting yourself the way that you're saying that.
I'm not doubting myself. It's just I knew what happened in that event was absolutely tremendous. We had, the Calvados tasting. We had unbelievable quality. We had Veroni, doing support saying charcuterie, Cabot cheese, and then all these exquisite Calvados and American apple brandies, and Ambrosia Borowski was there, and John Bunker, and Lisa Lair-Dunn, and then we had the cider pop-up, which is freaking amazing. Morris dancing in the center of Greenfield, and then 6 women producers in the cider trade. Exquisite. And I realize now that when you stick your neck out, sometimes, you could become a target because of that. And, oh well, okay. Isn't that interesting? So fortitude is what I'm bringing from 2022 to realize, all right, well, Ciderville is a cool place, and sometimes I gotta just kind of be aware that not everybody is on the same frequency that I am or we are. So, yeah, enough said about that. Moving forward in 2023, there is a lot. Really for me, it's about getting that podcast out every week. That's what Cider Chat is about. Yeah, there's a lot, and it's almost like too early because I'm kind of catching up for myself. But I'm stoked. It's like people love Cider Chat and what's going on, and that's where I want to keep my energy.
Well, thank you for sharing that sneak peek. I know that I'm not alone. I know that there's many listeners out there who are excited for you and for Cider Chat, and are definitely rooting for you and wanting you to move forward with all the grace that you've been able to go through all of this with so far.
Thank you, Nose. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and it's my great honor. So thanks for letting me be here to celebrate that with you.
Here's to season 8.
Here's to season 8.
Hello, this is Pauline and Bill Storm from Storm Ranch Cider and Wine in Julian, California, and you're listening to Cider Chat.
Thanks to all the folks who participated in Season 7 on Cider Chat. You can find all the archived episodes at ciderchat.com/podcast. And of course, a big tip of the glass to the folks who support this podcast every month. You too can become a patron by going to the Cider Chat Patreon page. That's spelled Patreon. Yes! And don't forget to put in your entries now to the New York International Cider Competition. Find all the info and the application at nyicidercompetition.com. And make sure to use CHAT23 as a promo code to receive $10 off your submissions. And with that, I leave you here. This is Ria Windcaller signing off for now. Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
We like cider. We like palms. We love orchards and having fun. There is a reason. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. We like cider. We like palms. We like orchards, having some fun. There is a reason. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Oh yes, there is. There is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. Oh yeah. We like cider. Oh yes, we do. We like palms. Oh yes, we do. We love orchards, having some fun. There is a reason. There is a reason why we do it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. There is a reason why we do it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. Ba-da-da-dum. We like walking down the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. Oh yeah. We like cider. Ba-da-da-dum. We like palms. Oh yes, we do. We like orchards, having some fun.
Yeehaw!